Good afternoon. We're Doug and
Adele.
Calhoun, and we are co-authors with Scott and Claire Lowridge of Spiritual Rhythms for the Enneagram, a handbook for harmony and transformation. And we're really delighted that you could join us on this Facebook Live program today. We have been looking at each of the numbers. So far, we've gone through the gut triad, the 891, that instinctual body center that we call GQ. It's a whole sense of intelligence that each of us have, and we looked at how those beloved numbers engage with that in very different ways. And today we get to begin the heart triad, the 234s, and we will look at what our emotional center is, the heart intelligence that each of us has. And what better number to start with than the beloved twos, who represent indeed the heart of the heart triad. So we're glad you could join us, and hope as you're watching you'll check in, and if you have questions, please let us know as you have them, and we will try to respond to them.
Twos. So today I've had two interactions with twos. We're in the process of moving, and I've been looking at paint colors, and I bought like 2 quarts and 2 gallons and 4 little pints of colors for one room, trying to get the color right. I couldn't get the color right. So my 2 friend says, "Oh, come over to my house," and she has all the span of all the colors, and she looks at the material I'm trying to match. And she goes through her house showing me every way that this could work. And she says, "I am so honored to do this. I am so honored that you would ask me for help." And this is the two. The two wants to help, and they're honored to help. And then later in the day, a friend from Chicago, who is a beautiful two, called me and said, "You know, I'm willing to come. I'll hop on an airplane. Just tell me when you want me to come." And this is the heart of the two. How can I help you? What can I do for you? What do you need? It is this ability to really reflect the face of God's care for others in very tangible ways. Are you sick? Let me bring you a casserole. Do you need a ride to the hospital? Let me take you to the hospital. This is the beauty of our beloved twos, this desire to be the hands and feet of God in serving and helping the world.
These beloved twos often, I think, have what the scriptures would call the gift of mercy. They seem to be able to sense through their heart intelligence what you need, sometimes even before you know what it is. And particularly for some people, they don't have a clue what it is, but these twos know it, and they don't necessarily need permission. They just come right in and try to help it. And I can remember various times people who would show up and have an encouraging word and the love and care for me at a time when I was really in need of it, and they just knew to be there. I didn't even ask them to come, and that's they're sort of on a wavelength with needs, and they can just sense them around them, and their instinctive impulse is to respond with love and care, and that's their bread and butter, and they really know how to do that. And that is their gift, that they know how to provide the love and care of God. What?
Book.
Well, I should say book. What do you want?
I want a book.
So one of the things, so that's the gift of the two. They really know how to express the love of God and the care of God to people. And I would tend to say that they're like God in that they're pretty indiscriminate with that love. They see a need and they want to help it. So I think a lot of the mercy organizations that are out there in the world trying to meet the needs of the poor often stem from the heart of a two, somewhere along the line, saying we've got to do something about this. So they're sensing this need and watching it, that moves them to action. And so they reach out with this love.
when we moved to Chicago, a friend of a friend introduced us to a two, and this two organized a dinner for us and introduced us to all her friends. And she became one of our best friends while we were in Chicago because she makes connections. She knows how to draw people in. And you will find twos in organizations that require service and volunteer, and they will pull others in. They know, they're sort of gluey people. They know how to pull people into acts of service. And we always feel like there are never enough twos around because twos can get burnt out with serving. And they always wonder, where's everybody else? Why am I the only one here? Don't they see this need? And they can go to 8 in their 2, 8, 5 triad and get pretty mad about the rest of us and how we don't pitch in and how we don't see needs and how we don't respond to what's in front of us.
And that actually is a little bit of an introduction to the challenge for these beloved twos. Here they are representing the very essence of what we might think of as God, in that they are the love. But their challenge when other people don't help them out and see that there's needs and come alongside them, or they're not properly recognized for all that they've been doing, they get proud about it and say, well, don't you care that I did all these things? Or don't you realize how much I've done for you? Or they will try to make themselves indispensable in your life so that you keep needing them even after the need has been met. Because their identity, sadly, when they get out of their center, away from their place in Christ, they rely on how much they are needed by others instead of who they are in Christ. And so they start measuring how much they're needed, and they keep finding ways to be needed even when they're not. And that gets them into their deep trouble of the vice of pride.
So here are the people who are the most loving people on the Enneagram in many ways, who are the most prideful. And it's about, why can't you love like me? Why aren't you there for others like me? Why didn't you volunteer like me? Look at all these organizations that can use your help. And they feel proud that they are good lovers. And they are good lovers. That's the truth. But to be able to see that we don't all have their grace for love, and that what for them is almost a second nature is for many people a discipline. How do I learn to love and move from my self-absorption towards others?
So just taking a moment here to give a shout out to all those watching. Claire and Scott, our co-authors, are on board. Justin and Rob from Indiana, good to see you. Vicki, and our dear friend Susan here in Squam with us, and Marty Perks. Thank you all for joining us. If you do have questions, feel free to write them in, and we will do our best to address them. If we don't know the answer, Scott and Claire are here, and we'll trust them to fill in the gap as well. So these beloved twos, we have talked a little bit. So their virtue is their love, their vice is their pride, and we mentioned briefly that in the harmony triads, they're connected to the 8 and the 5, not just the 8. And so the 5s are something that give them a particular ability to be thinking about. So as I'm have this impulse to meet this need, when they're able to think about what's going on instead of just reacting out of their heart emotion, they can ask themselves, so yes, I realize this is a need, but is this mine to do? Do I have time and energy to do this, or can somebody else do this? And normally, the 2, when they get in this impulse of love, and particularly their false self-impulse of love, those questions don't appear on the radar. They just dive in. But if they pause just a little bit with God and say, Lord, I see this need. Is this mine to do, or is this mine to do now? that leads them to a healthier understanding of where they expend their energy, and a sense both of responsibility, yes, this is mine to do, as well as release. I'm not the one that has to care for every need in the world. That's their pride. They can think, I alone meet the needs of the world. And so asking that very question from their 5 space, their head space, their IQ, that gives them a perspective to be able to make a wise discernment about what's going on.
In the harmony triad, the 2s to transform as they go to 5 and to 8, their love begins to contemplate, to think about, as Doug said, is this mine to do, and then decide, then act, move to the 8 to act. So there's this beautiful sense of once a 2 understands that love is to contemplate and decide, that love is actually discerning, they have a path for transformation. They have a way to say, I don't need to burn out. I don't need to be overwhelmed. I can't do everything. And to step back and to say, what do I need?
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the 2s can read everybody else's need is a strength they have, but often part of their childhood wounding was that nobody was attentive to their needs. And the way they got attention was by being the little servant who met everybody else's needs. And so for a 2 to actually step back and say, it's okay for me to have some needs, and this is what I need, and I can do something about it, rather than just becoming bitter or melodramatic or manipulative to try to get people to need them, to be able to say, no, I can draw a line, I can have a boundary, I can take care of myself, and that actually is not just pleasing to me and restful to me, it pleases God that I would take care of myself.
I want to say hello to Anna Sisson. Great to see you, sister. One of the other challenges that came up when Adele was talking is something that now I can't remember. Oh, the life of senility here. The challenge that 2s can have, remember I said they're really quick to see needs, and then they want to make sure there are even more needs that they can meet, is that they become boundary abusers, and they insert themselves into your lives in ways that really aren't healthy for you or them, and you could even become codependent upon their ability to meet your needs and they on you. And so one of the things that we want to just touch on a little bit is, how is it that we, around the Enneagram circle, how do we love 2s? How do we show empathy for them, and how do we care for them? And one of the ways that I have come to find this, so as a pastor working with people, there's needs, and we can say, hey, people, we need help with this. First responders are 2s, of course I'll do it. Right behind them are the 1s, of course we ought to do this. And so I have learned, particularly if I have something that needs to be done, and there's a number of 2s or just 1 in the room, and they come and volunteer, I will ask them and sort of lead them through the discernment process that I hope they will begin to practice themselves. I'll say, first of all, thank you very much for volunteering. I'm so glad you did. Now, do you actually have time to do this? Is there anybody else who could do this? Who else can you get to help you with this? Because 2s can get a little Messiah-like and got to do it on my own. And when they have teams, that dissipates that sort of over self-focus that is part of their false self flaw. And so I actually invite them to consider what's going on here, and can you really do it? And if I actually know that they've got 3 other assignments this week and they're only able to volunteer 5 hours and they've already given 10, I'll say, nope, you can't do this. I'll find somebody else. Because they will do it even at the cost of their other relationships, particularly if it's a person of importance or power or somebody that they really admire, they will sacrifice unhealthily for them. So the way we love 2s at that point is to help them discern their own limits and their own needs and not rely on them for things that other people could do.
Another way we can care for twos is they really do want us to share our lives with them because it makes them feel needed. And if we deflect their questions, if we don't share, they could do one of two things. They can feel hurt and distressed that somehow we're not connecting, or they can do just what Doug said. They can just keep pushing in and trying to get you to answer the question. Twos are very distressed and they take it personally when a connection breaks. And to let them know if you disagree with them, that you're not breaking connection is really important for a two. To say, I know we have a difference of opinion here, but you need to know I really care about you, and this disagreement is not going to break our connection.
In our book, we try to come up with biblical stories of each of the numbers, and one of the simple ones for the beloved twos is the story of Mary and Martha when Jesus comes to dinner. And we find Mary sitting with Jesus, listening to him, and it's a remarkable, huge twist on the whole way that women are invited into things in the Jewish faith. Martha is doing what they usually do. They're in the kitchen working, and she comes to Jesus and said, "Look, I'm really, busting here, getting all these things ready, and my co-cook is just, slumming at your feet. Come on, get her back to where she's supposed to be doing." And Jesus very rightly said, "Well, you're anxious about many things." And this triad is one of their sort of overarching sins is that of anxiety. They're anxious, as Adele said, for connection. And twos are anxious that you find them valuable and meaningful, and that is the way that they feel like they connect to them. And if they are somehow feeling left out, so there's Mary really close and I'm in the kitchen, that's a break in connection. And so the irony here is a lot of twos will be in the kitchen, but they really want to be out front with everybody else. And so they'll be a little ticked that other people aren't in the kitchen helping them. And so it's a matter of all the rest of us numbers, 1 through 9, except twos, we actually need to go in the kitchen sometimes and help these beloved twos. And once the two's been in the kitchen for a while, we pull that two out and we shout their praises and we give them so much thanks for their work. Because of all the numbers, one of the numbers that actually needs healthy public recognition is the two. Healthy public recognition.
And it's often interesting if you're in an organization. Twos will be the ones that say, we need to have a volunteer appreciation party. We need to do something to appreciate our volunteers. But there are numbers on the Enneagram that's like, I don't do this for appreciation. I don't want to be seen. I don't want to go to a party. I don't even want people to know that I did it. And so part of it is trying to be able to say, it is not a fault not to want to show up at a party in your honor. But for a two, that's very hard to understand. And part of it is, how do we begin to just see the way other people look at the world, and that they don't look at the world through the connection lens of 2, 3s, and 4s. But twos always have their connection glasses on. Are we connecting? Do you love me? Do I love you? Are we expressing it? And we need these twos in a world that's so filled with loneliness and lack of connection. Twos, I think, have a very important mission right now, to be people who connect others to other people, to purpose, to meaning, and to God.
And I think the last thing I would say in relation to that and what I said earlier was they need that public recognition for sure, but they also really appreciate, I do believe, you're telling them, I care about you even when you don't do anything for me. I love you as a person, because some of their loving is to ensure that they're lovable. or are loved. And the thing that makes the transformed two unbelievably power is when they know that they're truly beloved themselves, they give away love easily, freely, without any qualms. But if it's out of their own brokenness, then they're grasping. It's a love to get. And so we want to find ways to really affirm and love these beautiful people so that that very engine of their heart, which is already geared to give away love, has this amazing source of love from Jesus. And from that place, then, they can amazingly influence the world. And they will touch people in ways that change them forever. So that's our beloved twos. We're very glad you could join us. Hope you'll interact more if you have any comments on the website later, and we're very glad to be with you. Stay tuned for tomorrow. Claire and Scott will talk about our beloved threes, and Claire happens to be one. So you'll get it right from the woman's mouth. Bye for now.